We're live. Great. Good evening and welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting of, what is the date? I knew it before this all started. Tuesday, June 25th. I need to read this in opening the meeting. In accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, notice is hereby given that the Select Board will meet on Tuesday, June 25th, 2024 at 7 o'clock. Members of the public are invited to attend this in-person meeting, 124 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk, Mass. Please note that the in-person meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technology problems interrupt the remote connection. The links and the phone in the Pledge of Allegiance.
And for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As is our custom, we have, first let me introduce, my name is Jim Lehan. I am joined by my associates Anita Mecklenburg and Mr. Kevin Roach. Kate O'Brien is with us, as also is our assistant town administrator this evening. Justin, who is our town administrator, is the proud new father of a young boy, which we're all thrilled for him. So he is on a brief leave of absence. But Kate has been more than capable and been wonderful in working with us. So we're thrilled to have you here this evening, as you always are. You're always with us every evening. We have an opportunity for public comment. We allow 15 minutes for public comment. I believe 5 people have signed up. Is there anyone that did not sign up that wishes to speak this evening? Can we get your name? You have 2. Can we get your names, please? Because we do limit it to 15 minutes, so dividing by that, we will limit the conversations to 2.5 minutes per person. Please confine to that, if you will. So if you could provide Kate with your names.
Margie Soberlin. Do you need the last name or the good?
I'm okay for now. Susan Savoy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
2 on Zoom as well.
Mr. Burns was first on the of your name.
You had 2 on Zoom as well.
Oh, okay. Well, then we're down to 2 minutes.
Justin.
Sorry about that.
Hi, Paul Burns, 32 Union Street. Regarding the shelter that will be opened at the former Bay State Correctional Prison, in my opinion, the state has exhibited a deeply concerning lack of transparency on the issues. I cite everything starting in late 2023 when the state decided to open this shelter but kept it a secret, to a denial of my recent Freedom of Information Act request that I made to the state for basic information such as how much the state is spending to renovate the facility. Due to this lack of transparency, I question the stated number of 405 inhabitants. I question the magnitude of our tax dollars that the state is spending on this facility. I question the duration to be open for. Question the expected 50-50 ratio of migrants to Massachusetts residents. I question if any real action will be taken when inhabitants miss their curfew. These are likely. The state has told us their action caused a complete loss of credibility. Question if any of our teachers could possibly, this is going to be unmanageable, full situation, have an added impact on education of Norfolk resident students. I question the long-term impact of the development of these students. What opportunities may be sacrificed because of a hindered education? I question what will be done when we experience crime and other emergencies in our safe little town. And I remind you that we are paying higher taxes now for recently built state-of-the-art police and fire stations. Perhaps we should just pray that our residents will remain safe and sound during this ordeal. In closing, I question what, if anything, from what we are about to hear tonight, we can actually believe. Thank you.
Who is next, Kate?
Okay, next we have George Cronin.
Mr. Cronin.
Hi, I'm George Cronin, 291 Main Street. My main concern is education. That's one of the reasons I spent 15 years on school committees in this town. I have grandchildren in the system now. They will actually be the 5th generation of Cronins going through Norfolk Public Schools. It's been a while since I've been on the school committee, but I'm starting to go over some figures, and this $104 per day per student is not even close to what it's going to take to maintain our current educational standards. We cannot be increasing class size. And from what I can see, we don't have the facilities but to have any choice but to increase class size. These students that are coming in, many are going to have language barriers, which require special language teachers. Many of them are going to be special ed, which, Jim, you know, is extremely expensive, especially if it's out of district. We have to draw up a list, a cost list of what it's going to take to bring in modular classrooms, which are extremely expensive, and hire additional staff, additional custodials, additional language teachers, additional special ed teachers, additional probably social workers. This all adds and costs money. And what the state is offering, in my opinion, is not even close to what it's going to require, and therefore it's going to lower the educational standards for our students, which to me is unacceptable. And as far as I'm concerned, we're not going to request the money from the state. We're going to draw up the list of what it's going to cost, and we're going to demand the money from the state. Or we'll tell them, I don't know what it'll be, but there has to be some consequences. We can't be lowering the educational standards of our students just to accommodate the state's poor planning. Thank you.
Next we have Julie? Or
I think it is the gentleman approaching.
oh, John Noel. John. Not Julie. My apologies.
My name is John Nolan. I'm at 75 Cleveland Street. The first thing I thought about when I heard about the situation was how it was going to impact the town, how it was going to impact the fire department, police department, the schools, and my first instinct is to fight it. I don't want to appease anybody. I don't want to try to make best of a bad situation. I want to fight it. And I think most of Norfolk doesn't know what it's in for. I mean, is this going to impact the budget of the town? Is this going to impact us as individuals? And I just don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. I think we should fight it, not try to appease the government and try to work with them. Let's fight it first and then see what happens. I mean, that's my opinion.
Dennis?
Myrtle Street. I've been a resident and a member of the community for 24 years now. So, and thankfully our kids have already gone through the school system. So we know all the concerns around that. But I wanted to go to the question, why? Now, it's got to be foremost in people's mind. Why are they doing this? Well, I can give you a big picture, and this is happening all over the country, as you may have heard, and it's happening all over Europe. It's been going on for a while. This is part of a larger agenda through the UN, through the World Economic Forum. The people coming here currently, it's a well-oiled machine. It's like an assembly line. They're moving them in, and they're busing and flying them all over the country. Why? The stated goal is to dilute our population. In their own statements, the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, years ago, they said they thought they needed 100 million immigrants to flood this country and thoroughly dilute the population and create chaos, and so we don't have a cohesive country anymore. So that's the bigger picture, which goes to the why. Now, I agree with everyone, it's just not fair. You have a community, say, I go to the old tribal example. If you have a tribe, you just don't willy-nilly invite unknown people into your tribe. It's not safe. There's a whole host of reasons. And as someone mentioned, a lot of these people are not vetted. And we already see what's happening across the country, especially in urban areas right now. It's really heating up. And so when George mentioned the extra demands on fire and police, you betcha. And will they be able to keep up with it? And is this going to cost us more money? But I guess in my final thought was, it's just fundamentally wrong for some outside agency or government to just foist upon a community a whole bunch of people that don't, they're not English speakers, they're not going to assimilate. And what are we going to do? We're going to house them and feed them and put the kids in our schools. Then what? What? There is no end game. If someone from the state was here tonight, I would ask, well, what's your end game? Is there a goal? Is there an objective here? No, there's not. The objective comes from somewhere way up high. They're just following instruction. Keep moving people into these communities and these cities. Where can this possibly lead? I mean, so, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Jack?
Hi, my name is Carl. And I talk about very similar things that we said. Hope everybody can make it. The thing I wanted to talk about was the select board several weeks ago said that there were two things they wouldn't compromise on. One is the safety of the citizens and residents of Norfolk, and number two was the quality of the education in Norfolk. I think that it's critical we track both of these impacts. Why? Because Norfolk will be impacted more than any other town in Massachusetts. Of the 90 to 100 towns in Massachusetts, we are affected the most. Because in terms of a percentage of our population, we're getting more than anybody else. This would be like putting 25,000 migrants in Boston. That's the equivalent ratio, and it's not fair. But to that end, I think to ensure that we track the safety and the education of our town, we need to have some metrics. And I'm proposing that these metrics be used to prove to the state how much our life has been or will be degraded because of this decision on their part. I recommend, a bunch of us, I suggest that the Norfolk Department track down that they respond to with a short description of the incident, including response times to the incident, in a log which is published weekly on a town webpage. Incidents at the shelter or related to shelter occupants on the streets of Norfolk should be clearly identified separately. If privacy is an issue, then names can be redacted. The information then should be considered a public record and easily accessible to all the citizens to determine the trends. Are we getting better or worse or staying the same? We understand this has been requested before, but now it's critical to prove to the state that the impact of the shelter with documented metrics. I've attached a log from Franklin, which has done some of this, and has some of the information we're proposing. Likewise, the fire department should track the incidents, descriptions, and response times of all calls, identify those calls related to the shelter or occupants of the shelter weekly, and post it on the town webpage. Any mutual aid calls that were necessary due to the shelter should be identified. Number 3, there should be a plan for children entering the school system that communicates and reinforces the adherence to state law regarding testing and vaccinations based on age of any new students entering the Norfolk or KP school district. Number 4, any health issues identified at the shelter such as TB, measles, flu, or any communicable diseases should be communicated to the Board of Health, School Committee, and the Select Board so that immunocompromised individuals in the town can be alerted as soon as possible. Education. Number 1, the school department should use appropriate standardized metrics identified and approved by the school committees and superintendents of the entire district to determine the quality of education and its trend. These metrics should be also posted on a town website on a weekly basis, since the new students will be coming every Monday. So overall, in summary, we'd like to recommend a temporary emergency shelter metrics dashboard where all these metrics can be viewed by everyone in the town, so we know what's going on. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Margie?
Hi, everybody. I am not like these guys that were up here, but I just want to support the parents of this town, my son.
I'm sorry, can you say your name and your address?
Oh, sure. Margie Soderlind, 31 Lake Street, Norfolk, Massachusetts.
Thank you, sorry.
So, first of all, I'm a Canadian. My parents did everything legal, but I'm hearing a lot of stuff in Franklin. Franklin's next door. I have friends in that are in Franklin. I'm nervous, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But, and it's just, Franklin is a mess because of what's going on and what's about to happen here. And so, there is fear here, a lot of fear. I'm sure everybody in here has fear of this. And then on the other side, I want to go help these people because they're not all bad people. They're just trying to make a life for themselves too, But this is not the right way to do it. It's just not right. Crowding us, squeezing us out, making us nervous, thinking maybe we should move. I mean, there's a lot going on here between that and us. And it's not fair. It's not fair. I mean, this is a really good town. And I don't think it's going to stay that way because of what I'm hearing in Franklin. I feel like it's really going to affect the children more than anything. And I wonder if any of these people have monitors on their legs, like what we've been seeing on the news, children being attacked, people being attacked, all this stuff that we're seeing on the news. Is that going to be anything going on in there, coming here? Do we know this? I mean, we don't know these people. We have no idea who these people are. I mean, maybe we're supposed to get to know these people, but all this stuff that I'm seeing on the news is scaring the hell out of me, But that's it. That's all I got to say. I just wish everybody luck, and hopefully it all works out. Thank you.
Susan? Susan Savoy, 45 Myrtle Street. I bought my house in 1995 when buying a house here was much more accessible. I personally understand and empathize with the folks who are struggling with the yearly increases in our real estate taxes because I feel that struggle too. I'm deeply concerned about the families who are less fortunate than I. Additionally, we have real fiscal challenges in town. These challenges call for reasoned response and the involvement of everyone in Norfolk. I also believe that we have the capacity to help others. I believe we can do better to support our elders, our disabled folks, and our veterans. I believe we can approach our challenges together, and I believe that most people in town want to see us work together with civility and compassion. There's no place for intimidation or dehumanization. Thank our select board. this dedication to...
There were two people on Zoom.
Yep, we have Chad Peck. And Patrick. And Jess.
Chad, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, you're on.
Oh, I really didn't want to speak. I was just letting people know to raise their hand if they did want to speak. But I will say, since I am on, Chad Peck, 10 Rice Farm Road, did want to say, thank you to the Select Board for everything you have done for us up to date. I'm sure it's an exhausting effort, and I know that you as residents have our best interest in mind, and keep pushing forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
Next, we have Patrick.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is well. I'm a dual citizen of Rosendale, Massachusetts, as well as Tampa, Florida. And this is more of an open-ended comment. Just I know that answers might be addressed upon review. My background experience is I come from running a 3.5-year plus operation in California, mainly San Diego and neighboring counties, that is very similar to the operation that it looks like you guys are being put into, for a best way to describe it. I did see that Heading Home was awarded the operation of this. There's very vague on what they will oversee. I've overseen these operations, so I am wondering in what capacity they are seeing this. Does it include just the staffing of it, the security portion, the transportation portion? There's not much information out there where we can find that, so I was hoping that that could be answered upon this meeting. And I'm also wondering, in that opportunity, if there'll be local hiring. The one positive that I did see in these operations in the communities that they were in was we were able to locally hire young talent within the community to get a nice opportunity to get in that field, the emergency response field. And the only problem that I saw with other vendors tied to it was gouging of the state and the community. So I want to put that on your radar, is they pay low, but they bill you guys high. Where in our opportunity, we were able to pay very well and bill the state accordingly from what the rates they were given. So I'm just wondering the positives that could come out of this to make sure, since it is going to happen, the best way to make that work best for the town, the state, and all the residents. That is the conclusion of my comment. Thank you all.
I see two hands up, but we are way past our 15 minutes, so if I'd like to recognize them, but if you could please be brief.
Jess.
Hi, I will be super brief. Jess Scanlon, 10 Blueberry Lane. I want to read a statement on behalf of myself personally and the Norfolk Strong Welcome Wagon. We would like to commend all of our town officials for the effort they have put into supporting our community through this transition. Your hard work and the transparency you have fought to provide for us is much appreciated. You're building the plane as you fly it, and we thank you. We would also like to publicly recognize the heartache that some of our current residents are experiencing in the face of racist, xenophobic, and threatening rhetoric. Our kids are watching. We as a community need to come together. We as a community need to engage in civil discourse in the appropriate fora. We cannot choose our neighbors, but most of us have had the privilege of choosing this beautiful town we call home. We owe it to each other to heal this community and move forward with respect, dignity, and compassion. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have one last comment.
I think it's my turn. I'm Lucy Bullock Seeger. I'm 8 King Philip Trail, and I want to echo the sentiments of both Jess and Sue. We understand that there's a lot of fear going on right now. I've heard it just in the last 15 minutes, but I want to remind folks that we can do hard things. We're not dumb. We understand this is a difficult task. We understand that there needs to be appropriate funding, engaging in a constructive manner, and not distracting by wild conspiracy theories, frankly. I also want to remind people that 22% of all the small businesses in the United States are owned and started by immigrant entrepreneurs. We need more small businesses. They are the backbone of this country. And the folks that are willing to do it and bootstrap themselves come to this country new. So we need to remember that because they are economic force in this country, a fifth of all small businesses. Also, 80% of our immigrants are more than 80% more likely to start small businesses in the US than native-born people. So let's just take a step back. These are families looking for a better life. They want to be contributing to this town and to this country. What you see on the news is not who these people are, and I really urge folks to listen to who they are, work with Heading Home, sign up and volunteer where you can, and really reach out to people and talk to people, because staying online and being very online is incredibly toxic and detrimental to everybody's mental health. So thank you to the Select Board. I so appreciate everything you do. Public service is a true, true vocation, and I really, really love to see you all work together, even though we don't just agree on everything. So thank you very much, and long live Norfolk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for all of your public comments. They are well heeded. This evening, we have no other agendas than to talk about where we are, and I want to explain why we're doing it the way we're doing it, because it may seem a little convoluted. We have had lots of conversations with the state. Some we have talked about, some we have not talked about. We've had we've had Zoom meetings, and we've had one-on-one conversations with the state. We've had conversations with our representative and our senator, a lot of which we have not shared because we didn't reach a point where we thought it was a meaningful conversation to have, because there's just too much speculation, too much rumor, and that has just caused more divisiveness than we want to put up with. It's just dysfunctional when we get to that point. So we had a meeting on Thursday of last week. Marcus was there. Kate was in that meeting. We are limited on how we can work. There are 3 of us. And state laws require that anytime there are 2 of us in a meeting where there is any deliberation, it must be a public posted meeting. So I was in the meeting at the state on Thursday. My compatriots were not able to attend that. So part of the reason we're holding this meeting tonight is that so we can engage in a dialogue, even though they have seen the minutes of what we took from that meeting. It's very different than actually attending and hearing the actual conversations. So a lot of what you'll hear tonight will be dialogue between us so that Kate and I can bring my compatriots up to speed on what occurred, because this is the only way we can do it. We can't, and nor will we, sneak upstairs and have that discussion. We're not going to do it. We're going to follow the rules. And the rules require us to be in that format. So it's been a little difficult for my associates here, because only one of us can be engaged in these conversations. But that is the law, and the state would not agree, and I fully understand why they would not agree with an open and a public meeting, because we can have a very different conversation in a private meeting than we can have in a public meeting. But what I want to talk about this evening is 3 things. One, I want to give you a little bit of a history on how this has all occurred, what we've learned, and where we are, and then talk about some of the things that happened on Thursday, which is the first time, I will tell you, that I feel we had a meaningful conversation. It's the first time we've gotten in front of people that actually could make decisions. It's the first time where we actually had some decisions made. And I have shared your frustration without being able to get answers to questions that we've had in front of them for a long time. There's very little that was said here tonight that we have not put in front of the state. When we first learned of this, which by the way was early May, when we first learned about this, we learned about this through social media on a Friday night. I was on the phone most of Saturday morning with my representatives, my senator, and trying to get a hold of somebody in the state, but I found out they don't work on Saturdays and Sundays. So Monday became a very busy day. And we had our first contact with the state on Tuesday. Marcus was part of that meeting. We at least then understood what it is they were doing. We didn't get any of the level of detail. We didn't get any really specific information. We had more questions than we did answers, but we at least heard they're going to open this as a shelter, and I think we've shared all that. But all of that is so high level, it really means nothing to us other than, okay, this is what's happening. We've then had multiple meetings with the state where we have presented to them the concerns, our police chief, our fire chief, this board, school, the superintendents. We have all worked diligently to try and put together all different potential concerns that this presents to us. We have looked at every possible consideration, and I'm sure we haven't covered them all. I'm sure there are some that we don't know. But without detail, without having any specific information, if we've got 5 roads to pick, we don't know which one to pick. So to sit and share with you, that's the road we're taking, when I find out that I should have gone over here, can't do that. So we've been really fighting to get information. What I've learned is that sometimes the best way to get information is to go around them. And personally, that's what I have been doing. I have been going around the state, trying to find out. Now, some of the things just didn't make sense, and I want to explain one of them. I have contacted Roxbury, I've contacted Cambridge, and I've physically gone to Lexington. And I've talked with the parties that have been involved in this. One of the messages I got back was, you're not going to get anything back from the state. If you think you will, you're not. That was their view. Apparently, they were not successful. We have not accepted that as an answer. What I also heard was some consistencies on messages. For example, you all heard, how long is this going to be open? 6 to 12 months. And you rightfully said, okay, does that mean you're gone? And in the meeting we had, you didn't get the answer you wanted. You got, well, 6 to 12 months. That was the party answer. Well, I looked into that a little bit more, because that was said in every single site. There's got to be a reason. I mean, what is the magic to 6 to 12 months? So then by accident, I found out from one of the inspectors that they were getting what's known as a temporary occupancy permit. A temporary occupancy permit is only good for 6 months. And it can only be renewed for 6 months, at which point they must apply for a permanent occupancy permit. That now starts to make a little more sense. So when we had our meeting on Thursday, I asked the parties involved that were the decision makers directly, do you have a permanent or temporary occupancy permit here in Norfolk? They answered temporary. I said, and they can renew it for 1 6 month, is that correct? He said, yes, that is correct. Do you have any intentions of applying for a permanent occupancy? No, we have no intentions of applying for permanent occupancy, and we will not go beyond 12 months. Those were the exact words. Did I miss a word, Marcus? Precisely. That's the first time there's been any explanation or rational logic to the 6 to 12 months in my mind. It also gave me some degree of comfort, because it is what has occurred to date, that is in fact the reason why. I am assuming that for them to get a permanent occupancy in that building would be an astronomical cost. It is not designed for the number of people they're putting in, which is why they have a temporary occupancy. So there is some relief in my mind. You can disallow it if you choose, but I'm beginning to believe a little bit more that there's something to this 6 to 12 month period. That doesn't give us comfort for the 6 to 12 months, but at least it gives me an understanding of where this is coming from and a drop-dead date for when this stops. And they were very clear on that. They were pushed hard on that question, and they were very clear and very firm on that answer. That's the first time we've been able to get that answer. So I wanted to cover that. Also, in talking with these other organizations that have experienced some of this, I've learned some ins and outs of why this. It is clear that the state has had a plan for this for some time. We're very naive to believe otherwise. I suspect that they started planning this in the end of last year, and they went out to bid in January. You don't go out to bid without having specs on what you're bidding for. So they knew the location, they knew what they wanted to do, and they knew what the requirements would be for the firms that they were bidding. So yes, the gentleman that spoke at that last meeting said, what is your plan? He was 100% right. We knew this from day one, they just weren't sharing it. They had a plan. For some reason, no only bets to them, they decided not to share that with us until mid-May. I can offer you no explanation for that, but that's where we are. So yes, this has been planned and had a strategy in place for some time. They own the building. We have to understand that. They own the building. We cannot block it. We cannot stop it. They can do what they want with it. So while this gentleman, I may agree with you in principle, we have talked with lawyers, we've talked at every avenue we have available to us, they can do what they want in that building. As long as they meet the codes and follow the rules, they can do whatever they want, and we can't do a thing about it. So our role does become, how do we mitigate the impact to this town? We have no other course to take. No other course to take. And we've checked every avenue available to find out if there's an alternative. So the meeting on Thursday was a fruitful meeting. We finally got some answers, and we're going to share that with you. Everything that we get in writing, which is what we're looking for now. We want everything in writing. Everything we get, we will post on the webpage immediately. We had questions around the environmental concerns. Those were answered in detail. They are now on the webpage. We got them on Friday. We posted them that day. We have information that we'll share today. Will be posted tomorrow. We have met with the provider, why do I keep forgetting this? Heading Home, thank you. Kind of a strange name. Heading Home. And we have a clear understanding of what they will or will not be doing, and Kate's going to share that with you here this evening. But I want to talk a little bit about public safety, because that has been one that has really been to the forefront. We have given them many demands on what we need to minimize the impact to our community. To their credit, we got some responses. They will be providing us with an on-site ambulance service 5 days a week, 8 o'clock in the morning to 12 noon every day. Now, the reason for that timing is that our chief and the state work together to analyze, and we will be posting this as well, by the way. We looked at exactly when our most exposure is and when we have the most runs. There have been comments that we have only one ambulance. That's not true. We have two. And we are purchasing a third. So we're not in a one ambulance scenario. So the analysis the reason they're posting it for this period of time is based on the analysis that comes from our fire chief as well as the analysis done by the state, and it's good data, and we will post that on the webpage for you to see. This is a huge concession for us. They will be on site. Now, it isn't what we want, and we're pushing back. They're proposing this to be for 4 to 6 weeks, where they will pilot it and see what the runs are. That building will not be really adequately running in 4 to 6 weeks, because they're going to do a phase-in over time. We have pushed back and said we want this to run through September. They have said they will consider that. We haven't had any feedback yet as to whether that will or will not happen. The other issue that we're not comfortable with is that we're not getting paramedic service, we're getting EMS service. We want paramedic service there. So we're pushing back on that, and that is still on the table. But we have gotten a fairly, I think, a significant concession. I know of no other location, Marcus, so you can correct me. I know of no other location where we've been able to get that. But it's not enough. But it's a start. So we're pushing hard to get that expanded to 3 months, where we'll get a fair evaluation, because it'll include a month of school, which is really important to get good data. And we would like to see an ALS capability. We also wanted on-site health clinic facilities there. They have agreed to that. There will be an on-site health clinic, mobile health clinic there 2 days a week, every week. We went through an analysis of vaccinations. We've had assurances, and I repeat it as given. We have assurances that there will be on-site vaccinations for all children, and that all children that go into our school will have the necessary requirements of any child that goes into a Massachusetts school. And that was a strong commitment as well from the people that actually have the authority to say that. Trying to think of anything on the other healthcare side. There's on-nursing facilities that will be there 5 days a week, 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We'd like to see that 7 days. We have pushed back on that as well. We're trying to do our very best to minimize the outside impact that would deplete our ability to meet the needs of our own citizens. And that it's, as Jack mentioned it correctly, we do not want to put anybody in this town at risk because of services. Now, we've lived with prisons down here for a long time. That prison was active prior to 2015, so we have experience. It's a different occupancy than when we had prisoners. It's a different scenario and more people. So we know that there's a greater risk. And we've evaluated that. The fire chief has evaluated that. The police have evaluated that. There will be 24-hour on-site security. Our police have worked with the state and involved with the state police, and they believe, if Chief Hines were here, I think I'm speaking adequately for him, that he is comfortable with the strategy and the process that's in place. He feels it does not put us at risk. There's always risk in anything, but he believes that there's a manageable plan in place to handle this. That comes from our police chief and working with the state and with the people that are going to be on there for on-site security. So that's the highlight of some of the things that we got commitments from on Thursday. That is the first time we've had any commitment from the state, despite multiple one-on-one, in some cases very heated conversations. This one got a little testy, probably, in the beginning, because I was kind of angry, I must admit. But it's embarrassing to continue to sit in front of you folks and tell you I don't know. It's embarrassing, and I'm tired of doing it. So that's what we learned on Thursday. We also learned a lot about what happens with the shelter, the firm that's going to be running that, and what services they're going to be providing, and I'm going to have Kate talk to you about that. And we're going to put all of these in bullet form, and we'll have them up on the webpage tomorrow. So you'll have the same information that we're sharing here tonight. We need to have dialogue amongst ourselves, which we'll do in a little bit because I need to bring my counterparts up to speed. We're going to hold selectmen offices on this Thursday from, what do we agree? It's
We
been a
said
crazy
9
day.
to 11. 9 to 11.
9 to 11. Just talk briefly about schools, but no detail, because there's a meeting on July 11th, and there have been conversations with superintendents that I have not been part of, so I don't have all the detail, but we have made progress there as well. But again, not to the degree that we need to. But that will be shared on July 11th. That will be, I believe, in the middle school, and it's being labeled as a forum for parents, which I'm sure are the ones that are most have the vested interest, although we all do. Even grandparents, well, I have grandkids in all these schools as well, so I intend to be there. But we have made progress there. We've gotten some concessions from them there as well, but I'm not going to get into that detail tonight. I'm going to leave that to the people that are above my pay grade on that, so, which is a lot of them.
And just to jump in, that starts at 6:30, which is usually we have a 7 o'clock, so just to put that on your calendar, it starts at 6:30, not 7 o'clock.
So we needed to hold this meeting tonight, and we needed to hold it here because we wanted it public viewed, and this was the only room that was available. So I apologize for the crowd and all of that, but we had no choice. And we wanted to get this out as quickly as possible because, quite honestly, they will be arriving this week. There will be some migrants arriving this week. Or I don't want to say migrants necessarily, but some of the homeless families will be coming into Norfolk at some point before the week is out. They will be phasing in over time. We don't know how many, but it will be a small number to begin, and we don't know the day or the time or any of that, nor do we need to, but it will be this week. So we wanted to get this out as quickly as we possibly could. Believe me, this is a work in progress. We do not have all the answers, but we have gotten some progress, which is somewhat of a relief because it has been getting through the bureaucracy of the state is a nightmare. I've had tooth extractions less painful. It's been difficult, but that, I hope, answers some of your questions. Ambulance is a big deal for us. That is a big deal. The chief says those are his prime call hours. You'll see it on the sheets that will be posted tomorrow. That's where our biggest exposure is. That was our biggest concern from the 8 to 12 timeframe, and having that ambulance on site, even EMS, which is what we were up until 15 years ago, is better than nothing. So they can get someone to a hospital if they need to, and not take our ambulance an hour and a half away for that run. So that is a huge concession, and there are some fairly significant concessions on the school side as well. So we have made progress. But we're a long way from hoping to where we end up. This is going to be a summer-long project. I'm also on the King Philip School Committee, and the analysis that we're doing up there, and I can't speak for the Norfolk Elementary School, but for King Philip, our issue is different than the elementary school, much different. In the elementary school, these kids are in the same classroom 80-90% of the same day. That's not true in the high school. They'll be in 7 different classrooms on any given day. We have the capacity to manage that transition much more smoothly, and we have the experience of what's gone on in Plainville, where I think we have 18 students from Plainville, and to be honest with you, it's gone very well. We've had no noticeable issues with 18 students, but that's 18 students. That's not 50, 60, or 80 students, which creates a very different scenario. We don't know the makeup of what we're going to be dealing with. We're anticipating 150 kids. We don't know whether they're preschool. We don't know whether they're under the age of 5. We don't know if they're in elementary. We don't know any of that. And what makes it more confusing is someone mentioned about, well, what's the strategy? What's the end strategy? Their stated end strategy is that they plan to be here between 1 and 2 months, and then they intend to move that family into permanent housing. That is their strategy. We don't have any permanent housing here in Norfolk. We have hardly any housing here in Norfolk that's available. I don't know where they're going. I don't know what the plan is, but that is their stated plan. That creates issues in itself, because you're going to have children going in and out, in and out, in and out throughout the entire school year. And so that's another issue that we're trying to work through, and that we're trying to figure out how to manage that. We are in the process of hiring specialists at the King Philip system in order to deal with what we anticipate is going to happen, and we have multiple strategies depending on how many children we have. Once the first group get in here, it is the intent of, again, speaking for King Philip, but I think they're in unison with the elementary school. They will be going into the prisons and they will be identifying what the percentages are between preschool, elementary, and King Philip, and using that as a benchmark to begin with to figure out what strategy actually that we'd have in place is more appropriate. The problem with that is that the numbers we're going to see in June will be different numbers we're going to see in August, because if this 1 month in, 1 month out kind of routine happens, they won't be the same students that we see in June entering the school system in September. So it is really a moving target. And I'm going to drop it at schools there because I do want the superintendents to have their opportunity, and I suspect between now and July 11th, something will change. And that's just the way it's been. So hopefully for the good, but something will change. So Kate's going to lead you through what we've learned in terms of how they plan to manage the facility.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm just going to briefly go over Heading Home and their actual services that they will be providing for their site. So they're known as a full-service provider, which means basically they oversee everything, day-to-day operations and engagements with the families. So all the meals they provide, they also have intensive case management and on-site supports focused on housing stability and work authorization. Again, they said their end goal is to move them into permanent affordable housing, and within that month time frame. 24/7 on-site security they'll be providing. They'll also be having a curfew. They'll be coming up with that on their own. We don't actually know the actual time. It's usually been between 6 and 8 in other sites. They also will be handling the school enrollment support, working with the schools when the schools come to the site, and they'll also have constant contact. They'll have a point person at the schools as well as at the town. Basic necessities, they provide them, and health services that Jim mentioned, on-site medical screening, the vaccinations, and referrals for any primary care or prenatal care that they need. The other main thing that they provide is transportation, so they'll be setting up a shuttle system. The stops, they'll probably, I think they'll come up with that as on demand and as where people come in and express where they want to go. One stop they already have is the Plainville Mall, so that's one stop already, but none in our town. The other thing I wanted to go in is we asked them on Thursday, what are their protocols? This is a popular question in the beginning. What are their protocols for disturbances if someone gets kicked out of the site, or if there's any criminal activity? So if there's any criminal activity that goes, automatically that transitions into the state police and local police, that goes to their protocols. But if there's a disturbance where they would have to leave the site, Heading Home provides transportation, and they are returned to what they call whatever their last safe space was. For example, I think a lot of these people would be Logan Airport, which a lot of the migrants will be coming from. So that is their established protocol if anything like that happens. The only other information that we can give at this time is that both our police and fire are in contact with Heading Home. They have a contact person. They've both been in there several times to get the layout. And our fire department will be making visits there with each new wave of people to kind of introduce themselves, go over fire drills, and kind of basic education when it comes to health services and things like that. When to call 911, when not to call 911. So as far as the towns, we've been in contact with Heading Home, and so far they've been very helpful. And that's at this point, that's all the updates I have. So.
Just in terms of police, the state police are the primary source of responsibility for that facility because it is a state facility, so our police are in a backup role. I can only tell you that our chief appears to be comfortable with the plan that is in place. That's his neighborhood, not mine, and knowing Chief Hines, he's an extremely diligent and cautious man. So if he's comfortable, that makes me feel comfortable because he's good at what he does. You all know that because you live in a safe town. And his goal is to keep it safe. Not a lot more that I can tell you right now. I just want to make it very clear that while I'm doing all the talking, these two folks have been no less engaged, but because of the limitations of the open meeting laws, they can't participate. We can't have two of us participating in any of these calls that we've had with the state. It is the law. And so the only time we can get together and talk about it is here tonight. And so who was not on that call is somewhat disadvantaged at being current on the information, and that is no fault of either of my associates. It's just the way the law is required us to behave, if you will, and we will follow the law. But I just wanted to make that clear, because they are equally as engaged and equally as concerned and are doing everything that they can. They work independently, we all work independently, and we're all trying to do the very best we can. I do believe there's more we can get from the state. I do believe that. I'm not sure I would have believed it 3 weeks ago. I'm beginning to believe it a little bit more. I will promise you I will fight like hell to get it. Marcus was there. I wasn't very pleasant in the opening of that meeting. But we're going to try our best. I would like to ask Marcus if he wants to add anything to that. You were gracious enough to be here and you've been in all of the meetings. Did I miss anything?
No, you did not, and I think we'll learn some more and continue conversations with the executive office and the undersecretaries to assure that the town of Norfolk is made whole through this whole thing. As Jim mentioned, they are arriving. Those individuals are arriving this week, so we need to prepare for that. But continual conversations with the executive office and the undersecretaries, and we will continue to keep the community involved in those conversations and keep you abreast of any information that we receive.
Jack mentioned something about metrics, and I could not agree more. And that's already in place, Jack. The only way we can have any meaningful leverage with the state is through metrics, is having good data to prove our points and prove our concerns if they're there. So you can be assured that some of it is in place, more of it will be in place. You're 100% right. That is really the only meaningful leverage we have. Because they can claim one thing, but if we can prove another, we're going to do our very best to do that. Hopefully we won't have to. But this is an unknown. But yeah, you're 100% right, and be assured that we're putting that in place.
Good. Thank you.
So, Kate, anything you want to add to? Okay. Go, guys. So now we're going to talk amongst ourselves, if you'll allow us to.
In office hours that we had, I don't know, was it last week? And it's all of a bit of a blur, but in the office hours, there were several local businesses that came forward with interested in partnering or being available, and we have brought those names forward to the state, so they're aware of the people who've reached out, the local businesses who have reached out, who are interested in playing a role there. So we have shared that, and just for all the 70, now it's down to 68 people watching, there are opportunities. So if you are a small business owner in the area or a local business, we are open to partnering and hiring as many local people for in whatever capacity makes sense to their business. So
we'll pass the information along.
Kevin?
Nope, as long as we just keep the fight up. I'm very strong that we need 7-day medical. They're there 7 days a week. We need 7-day medical.
Yeah, we are pushing hard for that. And we're also pushing for, to me, the most critical component is I think that ambulance has to be at least a 90-day evaluation. 30 days is going to get us nowhere, and we made that point very clearly to them in that meeting. They did not turn us down. They didn't say yes, but they did say they would evaluate it. But again, data will prove that point. So if we have good data to substantiate our needs, then we will make sure they see it very clearly. I don't know what else I can add, and I don't want to keep you all here just, in rhetoric, but thank you for your comments this morning, or this afternoon. What day is this? Thank you for your comments. They are much appreciated, and believe me, they are heard. We're doing everything we can.
Jim, what are those office hours again?
I'm sorry, Jack?
Could you repeat those office hours on Thursday?
Thursday from 9 to 11 and 12 to 2.
Thanks.
And then the schools are working hard. You're not hearing things, but they are working hard. Like Jim is saying, there's path A, path B. If this happens, we'll do this. If this happens, we'll do this. And they're working aggressively on that. And their plan is to have a more formalized plan to present to you on July 11th at 6:30.
As a member of the King Philip School Committee, I've been on a number of their calls, and I can tell you that our superintendents have been very, very direct in their concerns and their needs. They have not minced words. And so, and there has been progress made on some of those concerns. None of it solves the problem. I want to make that clear. There's no magic lantern that's going to show up here that's going to make this thing easy. I hope that my analysis on the 6 to 12 months is right. I hope I'm right. But it just makes all the sense in the world to me why those numbers seem to be flashed everywhere I look. And knowing the laws around permitting and having validated that directly to the people on that call, I have some level of comfort that, because I have the same concern. I mean, they're putting a lot of money in that building, and, what happens next? How long will it go? And at least having a drop-dead date helps understand how we deal with this. So, if there is a question about what we shared, without getting into politics, please, if you are comfortable with this?
Yes, as long as we...
Okay, if it deviates, I'm going to stop it because we can't go there anymore. We've got to talk solutions. Yes, sir.
Did they give you a hard date on when the day the actual ambulance is going to start? Like, will that ambulance from 8 to 12 start tomorrow? Because if they're showing up tomorrow, will the ambulance be there right from the time that they're going to show up? Or will people, how is there be there without an ambulance?
My understanding is when they arrive, it arrives.
Okay.
That was made clear. Yep. Any other question about what we shared?
Can the state ask for a third temporary occupancy permit?
No.
Have they, the other towns that have had this situation where they had a 6-month and a 6-month, have all of them shut down after 12 months?
There's only been one that has reached that point, and that was Roxbury, I believe, and they did shut down prior to 12 months.
Okay. Thank you.
What happens when they shut down?
I'm sorry? I don't want to get a wide open dialogue. If it's specific to what we've shared with you, I'll try to answer it, but if it's about those bounds, we'll be here all night, and we probably won't have the answers. So I apologize for that, but if it's specific to what we shared, I will try and clarify it, but if it's outside of that boundaries, we'll be here all night.
Jim, who issues a temporary occupancy permit? The state?
State.
Okay. Do we have a date on when it was issued? If they already have one, what was the date?
They have it now.
Okay, they already have it. We don't know the date that it was originally issued?
It's within the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Yep, thank you.
I do have the date, actually. I just don't remember, but it was within the last 3 weeks.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. All right, do we have any other business amongst ourselves?
Nope.
Because this was for us as much as for you folks.
My one question is about our next meeting, when are we going to meet next? We want to wait until...
We have a posted meeting for July that is our routine meeting. If we have anything of meaningful opportunity to share more, we will call a meeting immediately. We have to post it 48 hours in advance, and we'll try to do it in a way that it's televised because we think everybody wants to hear it, so you don't have to, come all the way in here if you don't need to. But we will call a meeting anytime it's of value. I promise. I'm sorry? They're always posted on the webpage. Yeah. Yep, all meetings are posted. Do I have any other business?
Nope.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.